Hello aspirants, looking at current affairs for 11th March. The news items that we have picked up from the Hindu newspaper are these 20. We'll look at all of them in detail. The first one, Maruti violence, death case. 31 convicted, 117 acquitted. So this is the Maruti violence case at its Manesar plant site. So the workers here had gone on strike, and on this day, July 18, 2012, the violence reached its peak when the human resource manager of the site, this Avinash Kumar Dev, was killed. So they put offices on fire. So that is why all these 148 workers are accused here in this case, and presently a local court has convicted 31 of them and acquitted 117. So 117 are free. So 13 of these convicted, they were held guilty for the murder, attempt to murder, destruction of evidence and criminal conspiracy. So one of these we saw, human resource manager was killed, and around 90 executives were injured too during this violence. So you can see Manesar violence incident is detailed out here. So it was the workers who were demanding for themselves that they should have an independent union, new union in Manesar. So Gurgaon union is there for Maruti as such. They wanted an independent union for Manesar. So Manesar is also a city in the same Gurgaon district. So Gurgaon union was the same for this too, but they wanted a new independent union, and management said no, there would be no new independent union. They were demanding that the management was demanding that they sign good conduct bond, but then they were refusing to sign. They were not ready for some minimum discipline also as such. Then also workers demanded that the services of contract workers at Manesar should be restored. Management said that they would be absorbed gradually as new plants come. So, and the workers were demanding that the suspension of a union member at Manesar should be immediately revoked, but then management was saying that it would be decided after consultation. So based on this, the strikes which went down, shutdown brought at Manesar plant, and finally the violence reached its peak and the death occurred. So they were demanding basic salary increase, monthly conveyance allowance, etc. for themselves. The next news item is Supreme Court issues bailable warrant against Justice C.S. Karnan. So we know about this, we have discussed this, it has been in news quite often now. So the further development taking place here on this issue of contempt case against a judge, a sitting judge. So Calcutta High Court Judge C.S. Karnan, he has a contempt notice against him, and now the 7-judge bench which is looking into this has issued a bailable warrant against him. So warrant has also been issued because he did not present himself in the Supreme Court on the case. So Supreme Court has taken up suo motu contempt case. Suo motu means on its own, not by a petition filed by anybody. A contempt case against him has been heard because it is said that he had denigrated the judicial system. Means disgraced the judicial system. He has made statements that many Supreme Court and High Court judges are corrupt. So such allegations are being questioned here now in this case. The judge says, Justice Karnan says that this is an illegal order, motivated, it says, he's saying motivated, ridiculous, illegal order, because actually a sitting judge, there cannot be any action taken against him. On the maximum, the only thing that can be done is that he can be impeached by the parliament. Any judge of the High Court and any judge of the Supreme Court can be removed only by impeachment by parliament. So that's what he's saying, that can be done. What is done here right now, that contempt of court proceedings against a sitting judge has never taken place, and he's not presenting himself before the court, and now that is why Supreme Court, this 7-judge bench, has issued a bailable warrant. So that's what he again says, that he's been targeted, Justice Karnan, because he belongs to the SC category. He's a scheduled caste. So he has written a letter to the Prime Minister too, alleging that several sitting and retired High Court judges and Supreme Court judges are corrupt. So that's what the Attorney General here in this case is also saying, that he should face contempt proceedings because of his scurrilous letters in which he is throwing allegations on others, including sitting and retired judges. So that is there. And another point which the Attorney General has presently brought out in this case is regarding a report of a writ order which this Justice Karnan has brought forth. So this was a petition which had come before him in Calcutta High Court. So it was on the allegations, inquiry to be done on the allegations in the suicide note of former Arunachal Pradesh Chief Minister Kalikho Pul. So this former Arunachal CM, he had committed suicide, and in his suicide note he has alleged about corruption by judges. So that is why on this the hearing had been done, and Justice Kernan here had agreed with the petitioner lawyer that the seven judge bench decision to strip him of his judicial and administrative powers in the light of contempt proceedings is void. It cannot take place. So that was his order there against the Supreme Court's bench as such. So that is also there. So such an order, it can be passed, means a high court judge giving order against the Supreme Court. But this is what new report comes forth as such. So this is also there. So this writ order, he says no contempt, either civil or criminal contempt case cannot be initiated against a sitting high court judge under the Contempt of Courts Act. It is not allowed, and again under Article 20 of the Constitution of India too, it cannot be against a sitting high court judge. So Article 20 is about protection with respect to conviction for offences. So here when you are convicted for an offence, there are some protections given. So you cannot be punished for an offence which is not the case, which is not as per the laws present at that time. So as I said that sitting judges, contempt of court proceedings can be taken against sitting judges or not. This is a controversy here. It has never taken place so far. Also other two parts in the Article 20 are regarding nobody can be forced to be a witness in his own against himself. That is there. And then nobody can be charged for the same offence twice. So those are also other provisions here. So here that is the case. Now again the Supreme Court has asked him to appear before the bench on 31st March, but Justice Kernan again in a press conference he has said that he will not appear before it because he has not done again anything illegal. So we'll see what will be the further developments here too. And regarding this Arunachal CM Kalikhopul, actually he had committed suicide. So the Arunachal Pradesh state had also undergone turbulence here. There was precedent rule imposed. So this is the whole story regarding that too. It was Congress government here. So Congress CM Nabam Tukki, he had dropped his health minister. This Kalikhopul, he was the health minister then in December 2014, and he was dropped from the party. And later he was expelled in 2015 because of his anti-party work. So this order was also stayed by the court later. And then in November, he actually, this Kalikhopul had later joined the rebels. And he had support from the BJP and he formed the government. So he was elected the CM. So that was the later development because many MLAs left, 21 out of 47 Congress MLAs left the party and then they supported Kalikhopul. Kalikhopul got external support from BJP also. Later Arunachal Pradesh came under President's rule in June 2016. President's rule was revoked, but then Pul was made the CM because after that actually Pul won the floor test, means confidence motion was initiated, floor test, and he won and he became the CM. In March, Congress rebel MLAs joined this People's Party of Arunachal Pradesh, which is claimed to have been established with support from BJP, and they all became members here. Supreme Court actually called this election of Pul as the CM as wrong, and they reinstated Tukki government. So Nabam Tukki again became the government, but then it was there that he did not have the majority. Congress had another CM candidate, Pema Khandu became the CM, and it was during this time that Pul was found dead. So he is said to have committed suicide, leaving behind a suicide note alleging corruption against High Court judges and Supreme Court judges. So here this is the case right now. So Supreme Court here in Arunachal Pradesh, basically because Tukki government, Congress did not have the majority, eventually it was the BJP which came back to power. So the same members, they shifted to BJP and they became part of the government. So this was a declaration of Kalikhopul to the side note which is being spoken of. So he's talking of money being asked as ghus, means corruption. So by the judge. So he says he took 36 crore bribe to deliver a wrong judgment. He used his son to strike the deal, whereas the decision was wrong. So he had to step down. So what was the cause for the suicide? One hint is given through this declaration. So that's what charges of corruption against judge. Then the next news item is lost Chandrayaan-1 found orbiting moon by NASA. So Chandrayaan-1, which was India's first lunar mission, so this was orbiting the moon, but then its contact with it was lost. So presently NASA has said that they have found Chandrayaan-1, it is still orbiting the moon. So this was evidence from the ground-based radar which the NASA has. So ISRO had lost communication with Chandrayaan-1 actually. That's what it is. It was launched in 2008, October 2008, and in August 2009, it was declared by ISRO that they had lost communication with Chandrayaan-1. So it was actually a 2-year mission, but it got wrapped up. So that is there. So it's seen that this radars had found the spacecraft still circling some 200 kilometers above the lunar surface. So this radar was for detecting any asteroids as such. So observation of small asteroids was the actual target of this radar, but they came across this Chandrayaan-1 in this because it was very close. So Chandrayaan-1 is orbiting the moon, and asteroids are present between the Mars and Jupiter belt. So that is the asteroid belt. So that's why they have found that this is Chandrayaan-1. And another thing which is mentioned is that this mascons. So mascons are regions with higher than average gravitational pull on the lunar surface of the moon. So moon has these regions with mascons. So because of this, when the gravitational pull variation takes place, actually the spacecraft orbiting can also shift and change its orbit, and so in some cases may crash into the moon too. So this object which is still moving is seen that it has not been there for years. It's something very recent. So that's what it is expected, that this is Chandrayaan-1. So you can see Chandrayaan-1 operated for 312 days as against the intended 2 years. But the mission, the ISRO has claimed it achieved 95% of its planned objective. So Chandrayaan-1, which was launched in October 2008, made India the 6th country in the world to have a moon mission. So other 5 are USSR, former USSR, present Russia, USA, China, Japan, and European Space Agency. So India became the 6th. Even the next moon mission, Chandrayaan-2, is being worked on. So this will have also a lander as well as a rover. So Chandrayaan-1 had a lander, but this Chandrayaan-2 will have a rover also, which will move on the surface of the moon. So that is there. We are working on it. We have seen that tests are being conducted on Chandrayaan-2 equipments also. So this is regarding Chandrayaan. The mission goals and the achievements are listed here, you can see. So achievements were that it placed the tricolor on the lunar surface. 2 months after the launch, Chandrayaan-1 found iron on the moon. Even water has been detected on the moon by Chandrayaan-1. Then the first X-ray signature from the moon was detected as such. Then calcium, silicon was sighted. It sent back images of peak 2 kilometers high and craters similar to those of Hawaii and Arizona. So these images were also sent back. So that was Chandrayaan-1. You can see the Chandrayaan-1. It found evidence of water. So before the project was aborted in August, this was also done. Even other have also found water. So water on the surface of the moon has been found by NASA as MMM2, Moon's Mineralogy Mapper. So this had mapped 97% of the lunar surface and found evidence of water. Even the Cassini spacecraft here, US European Union space satellite, this had detected water because Cassini is actually for Saturn. It was a Saturn orbiting mission. So it had detected water as it passed moon. So during that time, it had also detected water here. So images are sent as such from these satellites. Then deep impact, which is a probe for it was conducting a flyby to a comet. Deep impact. So this had also found water on the surface of the moon. So these infrared detections were done here through this also, deep impact. So on its flyby while it was passing. So that is it. That water is present on the lunar surface. So it is said that hydrogen ions carried from the sun by solar winds hit lunar surface, and these ions interact with oxygen rich mineral in lunar soil to produce water during the lunar day. So that is how water is present in the soil of moon is considered. This is how water comes on the surface of the moon. Then the next news item is 4 states come together for elephant census. So these 4 states where human elephant conflict is maximum here in these states: Orissa, West Bengal, Chhattisgarh and Jharkhand, where Orissa has the maximum number of elephants, near around 2000, and these also have significant number of elephants. So here elephant census will be conducted by these 4 states by two methods. So one is direct counting method and indirect counting method. So direct counting is sighting of the elephant, you count them. Indirect counting method is this dung decay formula. So analysis of the elephant dung is done to estimate the population. So this elephant census will be conducted. The next is when history moved on wheels. So this is an armory of Tipu Sultan, means a place where the king here, Mysore Sultan, King Tipu, he stored gunpowder and weapons. So that was the armory. So this armory is located at Srirangapatnam. So there were a number of armories which he had, around 10. This is a part of that 10 which he had built. So this is a 1,000-ton structure. This has been moved because railways wanted to lay tracks, and it passed through exactly on this armory actually. So that is why this armory has been moved. So this has been done with the help of US experts too. So this New Delhi based engineering firm and US company have together moved this monument. And how has that been done? Means how a monument can be moved. So excavation is done. So you can see this is the armory. So this is the part below the surface of the earth. So this digging has taken place and that whole structure has been brought up and on these beams, and it has been shifted. So this has been accomplished the first time that railways has moved a monument in one piece to a new site. So that is there. This is 130 meters away that it has been lowered down and placed there. Then the next news item is projects cleared faster in 2015, CAG. So the Comptroller and Auditor General of India has presently given a report in which it says that environmental clearance to projects have been delayed from 2011 to 2014, but this delay has reduced now in 2015. So this is a study being undertaken by it, an auditing being done. So there are around 2,898 projects which were granted environmental clearance between 2011 to 2015. Of these, 208 projects have been picked up by CAG for a detailed analysis. So it has seen that 90% of the projects here were delayed. The prescribed time frame for giving environmental clearance to projects by the Environment Ministry is 105 days. So in many cases it has gone very high, in some cases almost a year too. So that is there. So average delay has been for 7 months as such, but then in 2015 it has reduced. So this is the report coming forth. So Environment Ministry during 2013 also there were huge delays, problems, because then Congress was in power and this UPA government. So Jayanti Natarajan, who was the Environment Minister, eventually had to quit her post because she was accused of delaying environmental clearance to major projects. So there's always a conflict and a dilemma here, because Environment Ministry will look into environmental factors before giving clearance to projects, and the industrial and infrastructure related ministries, they would push for clearances. So these conflicts do arise, and even later Mr. Jairam Ramesh, who was the Environment Minister too, again at that time too, he also was accused of having similar accusations coming forth, and he was later shifted to Rural Development Ministry. So again presently it is seen Mr. Prakash Javadekar, he has quickly given environmental clearances to many projects. So that's what the report also says. So some of these projects which have been given clearances, CAG says, have also problems, because before giving clearance you have to conduct a public consultation. This public consultation process means people, the villagers, the residents there in the project affected area should be consulted. So here also there have been problems in this consultation process, has also been highlighted by the CAG in these projects which have been cleared. Then the next news item is Tamil Nadu model drastically reduces response time in heart attack case. So in case of a heart attack, the time taken to respond is very important. So on an average, it is generally 900 minutes. So in Tamil Nadu, there is a model which has been put into effect which reduces this to 170 minutes. So means generally when a heart attack takes place, the 2 steps need to be taken. So these are 2 strategies. That is called 2 strategies of reperfusion. So this is, one is taken to the cath lab. So in this cath lab, the catheterization process takes place and angioplasty is done. So means we have seen this in the stents case, that angioplasty, we have a balloon, so the stent put in through this catheterization, and then in the artery where there's a problem, this is put in place so that the block can be removed. And another is thrombolizing. So this thrombolized is the treatment to dissolve the clots in blood. So that is the medicine which is given, so that is helping in dissolving clot too. So these are the two steps which are two strategies which are there. So in this new model, pharmaco-invasive strategy, which Tamil Nadu has this NGO bringing this into effect in Tamil Nadu, here it is seen that the hub and spoke model is used. Means there's a hub hospital and spoke hospitals too. Means the patient is taken, means even these spokes hospitals can also be, spokes can also be ambulances. So in the ambulance itself too, here the process can be initiated. So this thrombolizing means the medication which has to be given, so through the veins in vitro, here that can be started immediately as such in the ambulance itself, and then when later he's sent to the hub hospital, here the catheterization process can take place. So this quickly initiates the process of treatment and lives could be saved, time could be saved. So that is the process here. Then the next news item is enemy property bill passed amid walkout. So this we have already discussed earlier. It was in news. Enemy Property Amendment and Validation Bill of 2016. So this bill has presently been passed by Rajya Sabha, even though there was fierce opposition as such from these opposition parties, still it was passed. The entire opposition walked out. So it was in the 6th attempt that it was passed, because there have been ordinances being issued, promulgated by the government to keep this bill provisions alive. So now this bill has been passed by Rajya Sabha. Actually, it had been passed by Lok Sabha in March 2016 itself, and it was sent to the Rajya Sabha. So here the Rajya Sabha proposed amendments, and with the amended bill was passed by Rajya Sabha and sent back to Lok Sabha for consideration. So now Lok Sabha had to pass it again. So that's what has resulted. So these amendments proposed were there. So what is this bill all about? You should be knowing that enemy property means property of people who are from China or Pakistan. So these are the two countries with whom we have had wars, 1962, 1965 and 1971. 62 was with China, 65 and 71 with Pakistan. So at the time of war, every civilian, every citizen of the country with whom we are at war are enemies. Every citizen is an enemy, not just terrorists or something like that. So that is, all Pakistani nationals at that time were enemies. So enemy properties which were there in the country, they were seized. So this seizing of property has taken place. So then when the person actually has a descendant, so then that descendant is not an enemy. So it was said that this property should be returned. But the government does not want to return any property, and to make sure, because there were many cases also initiated. So the government wanted to make sure that the judiciary also does not interfere in this. And that is the reason why these amendments are being passed now. So that is what this amendment bill was all about. And amendments proposed as such was that, which Rajya Sabha proposed, was that once an enemy property is vested in a custodian, it shall continue to be vested in him as enemy property, irrespective of whether the enemy subject or enemy firm has ceased to be enemy due to reasons such as death. Means it will remain with the custodian only, even if the person dies, whatever it may be. They don't want to return the property back. So this new bill ensures that the law of succession does not apply to enemy property. So these are the amendments proposed here, which are being passed now. So it will not apply to enemy property, means successor, descendant. Even if he is an Indian citizen, it will not be given back. There cannot be any transfer of property which the custodian has. And also it says that the civil courts and other authorities cannot entertain disputes related to enemy property. So it is taking away judicial review too. So again, what will be the judiciary's reaction to this is another matter. So these are the provisions, amended provisions, which have been proposed and now passed by Rajya Sabha too. So like this, you can see enemy property legislation. So it is, amendments are to avoid litigations. That is there. The property remains with the custodian. So you can see properties of Chinese subjects. Chinese subjects, there are few properties. Majorly it is of Pakistani nationals that we have these properties. And custodian will have this property forever now. So government holds these properties now. So you can see many cases are also there in the courts. And these some prominent owners too, having prominent properties as such, which now the custodian owns or holds. He's just a custodian. The authority is just a custodian, but government wants that it cannot be transferred. It stays with the custodian, with the government, and government will dispose it off. The next news item is slow progress in roads along China border, CAG. So in 1962, after the India-China war, in which India lost, it was defeated, another strategic blunder which the government is said to have committed then was that it did not develop its infrastructure along the China border. And the justification given for this was that the roads, if they are built, they could be used by Chinese forces also to make quick inroads into the country. So that is why this decision was taken. And now in 2007, the government reversed this decision and started developing infrastructure along the border with China. And now CAG report says that this is not an ambitious catch-up, but the targets are not being met and the costs are escalating. So these are 61 India-China border roads, which were scheduled to be completed by 2012. Out of these, CAG says only 22 have been completed by March 2016. And there are massive cost overruns. Means 98% of the cost expenditure has been done and only 36% has been completed. So this is the status of this construction of roads here, India-China border roads. And the CAG report also says there are numerous instances of defective construction of roads also. So that has been indicted. The next news item is swine flu claims 13 lives, over 50 cases recorded. So at least 13 deaths have been reported due to swine flu, that is H1N1 virus, during this year 2017 in Western Maharashtra. So swine flu, you can see H1N1. So this is bird flu and human flu. So this together, swine flu, are through pigs. Swine means pigs. So pigs harbor several flu viruses simultaneously, and then from pigs it can go into humans also, and then human to human transmission takes place and swine flu spreads. So this is being detected here in Western Maharashtra presently, and it has resulted in deaths also. The next news item is Augusta. Supreme Court refuses to order probe. So Supreme Court has been petitioned that a special investigation team should be set up to probe against journalists. Means they have been alleged to have been paid payoffs. Means journalists, newspaper journalists as such, have been paid payoffs so that they can give news in favor of Augusta Westland and the parent company Finmeccanica. So this is the company which is providing this Augusta Westland. So VVIP chopper deal, a multi-crore deal, was finalized with them, and this has resulted in a controversy after the Italian court, or in the Italian media actually, allegations came of bribe being paid by this company in India. So then this case came up, and now CBI is looking into the matter. And in the Supreme Court, this SIT probe is for journalists, against journalists. So that has not been accepted. Supreme Court refused to place any such order. It says that a blanket investigation cannot take place on the functioning of the media. So there needs to be concrete evidence. Otherwise, this will be attack on free speech. So that's what it says, that investigative agencies are free. They can conduct a probe against certain individuals or whatever they want to take actions as per the law. But Supreme Court will not issue any order as such, not a special investigation team being set up against journalists. So that is there. CBI Enforcement Directorate is looking into this chopper deal case as such. You can see 1999, Indian Air Force says that it wants replacement of its VVIP helicopters, and then the tender was floated. 4 vendors responded, and in 2003 to 2006 technical requirements were changed so that more contenders can come in, because only one of the 4 vendors was suitable, that is Eurocopter. So they changed their technical requirements so that there can be competition. Otherwise it would be only one contender. So then after that, fresh tenders, 3 vendors finally came out. Russia opted out, and then out of these 2, Augusta Westland finally clinched the deal. So it was selected in 2008, and this contract was finalized. And then in 2011-12, when these allegations came in Italy, the whole deal had later to be scrapped. So that has been the MOD, Ministry of Defense, scrapped the contract in 2014. And CBI has registered cases against these people. Even former Indian Air Force Chief Marshal, this SP Tyagi, is also indicted in this case. He is an accused. Then the next news item is China inducts J-20 stealth fighters. So this is J-20 stealth fighters, which are designed to compete with other 5th generation fighter aircrafts which are there of US and Russia. So this has been inducted into its forces. The next news item is Pakistan's parliament passes landmark Hindu marriage bill. So this is a bill passed by Pakistan Parliament, which is exclusive personal law to regulate marriages of Hindus, Pakistan's Hindus. So this bill had been passed by the lower house. Lower house in Pakistan is called National Assembly and upper house is called Senate. So the lower house had passed it in September 2016, but then again the version was changed by the upper house. So then when that was finalized, now the lower house has again passed this outdated version, and now both the houses have approved it. So in this bill, there's this act, actually now it's an act, Hindu Marriage Act. There is a provision for Shadi Parat. So this is a document similar to the Nikah-nama in Islam. So this will be required to be signed with the Pandit, and registration as such would be done with relevant government departments. So marriages would be regulated as per the provisions of this bill. So this also the government, another bill which has been passed by Pakistan Parliament is mentioned of is a constitutional amendment bill, and this bill would revive the controversial special military courts. So these are for trying hardcore militants. So the government has justified that there's a need for such courts and they will be reviving. So of course human rights concerns are also there in these cases. Then the next news item is Commonwealth ministers commit to boosting trade. So a 2-day Commonwealth Trade Summit has now been concluded. We have been seeing about Commonwealth since the last 2-3 days. So this summit, it was said that trade would be boosted, and this was the first meeting of the trade ministers of this Commonwealth members in the past 12 years. That's why it is significant, because after Brexit, UK wants to have its trade relations with countries beyond European Union too. So that is why this is becoming significant now. So they want that $1 trillion trade amongst the countries to be reach $1 trillion by 2020. So that is the target set. Right now it is around 700 something billion dollars. Then the next news item is Japan US conduct Navy drills. So this also we have been seeing that North Korea is being assertive. Its ballistic missiles were launched and they entered into EEZ, exclusive economic zone of Japan, in these waters around Japan here. And now Japan and US, and it was in response to the Japan-US joint exercises too. So Japan and US are conducting joint exercises in East China Sea. So this is East China. You can see South Korea is here, North Korea lies above it. So in East China Sea, actually there is a disputed site between the two countries, China and Japan. So that is also an assertion being made by US-Japan joint exercise in East China Sea, and also a warning to North Korea too, that their actions would be retaliated as such. So East China Sea dispute is also on these uninhabited islands which are there, Senkaku Islands as they are called in Japan, and China calls it Diao. So these islands here you can see they are administered presently by Japan and they are claimed by both China and Taiwan. So that is, and these dotted lines show China's air defense identification zone and Japan's air defense identification zone, and see they overlap, and that is why there is dispute on this Senkaku Islands here. Then the next news item is PAN may be made mandatory for TAN. So Central Board of Direct Taxes is considering that PAN should be made mandatory requirement for allotting TAN. So PAN is allotted permanent account number. This is for individuals, and TAN, tax deduction account numbers, are allotted to companies so that they can deduct tax at source. So these TAN issuance is done without any KYC norms. So there is a need for tightening KYC norms without significant KYC norms. So the forms which they fill here, documents, no proof of identity or address is asked for, not even PAN. So CAG had brought this to the notice, and now CBDT is considering that it would make PAN mandatory. So because in these cases where this TAN has been issued and tax deduction at source has been done by these companies, so a total demand of around 4,180 crores is there, and this has not been come forth to the government. So the government issues, CBDT issues notices. So 1 lakh notices were sent and they have come unserved because of inadequate KYC details. So they're not, the address which is provided is not correct, or it's not reaching the assessee. So that is why this inadequate information is creating problems. So that's why tightening of KYC norms, PAN being made mandatory, is sought for. So it says the tax department is having these losses. 4,180 crores is not coming to it. So this is from the time frame 2007-8 to 11-12. This was highlighted by CAG as such. So this will be made mandatory. Tax deduction account number. So every deductor payer has to obtain this TAN, except those who deduct tax on payment for property purchased. So that is the TAN number as such, an example given here. So this is used in TDS matters, tax deduction at source. The next news item is try Moods Telecom Ombudsman. So Telecom Regulatory Authority of India has recommended that an office of Telecom Ombudsman should be set up, which will have powers to levy penalties on telecom service providers, because recently there are many cases of complaints, grievances of consumers. So an ombudsman would work well. That is a recommendation coming from TRAC. The next is mass coral bleaching again. So this is regarding Australia's Great Barrier Reef. So here a second straight year of mass coral bleaching is involved. Generally it is not that 2 years consecutively this coral bleaching takes place. So this has been seen this year now. So 2,300-kilometer reef, the largest coral reef in the world, is facing severe bleaching now. So this is because of warming sea temperatures here. So more bleaching has been observed presently. So if there is a time frame between two bleaching phases, then it would give the coral some time to recover, and then they would be able to sustain another bleaching. But this back-to-back coral bleaching will have severe impact on the health of these corals. So bleaching occurs, you can see, when abnormal environmental conditions are there, like warmer sea temperatures. They cause the corals to expel tiny photosynthetic algae and drain them of color. So what are these corals? We'll see. So coral reefs. So these are look like land masses because they have this calcium carbonate formations. So they are secreted by these corals. So corals are these organisms which live in colonies. So they are genetically identical invertebrates. So their exoskeleton here, the body of theirs is made of this calcium carbonate which they secrete. This secretion of calcium carbonate keeps on taking place. So the corals will die, but their secretion would remain, and they keep on growing, and that results in this huge calcium carbonate formation, which is called the coral reef. And these corals, they obtain majority of their energy and nutrients from these photosynthetic unicellular algae. So algae which live within the coral tissues, they're called zooxanthellae. So these are the ones which give them energy. So they are photosynthetic, means in presence of sunlight they manufacture their food and they are able to provide this. It's a symbiotic relation, means both live together, and corals also get their food and the color which they have also through these algae. So when this coral bleaching takes place, what happens is, because of these adverse conditions like high temperatures of these waters as such, these algae cannot survive and they leave the corals. So when they leave and come out of them, it results in their color being lost. And the corals, they don't get the food later, and then their survival becomes difficult. So that is called coral bleaching. So bleaching, when you understand, is color being removed, it's bleach. So that's what this is happening. So you can see coral reef is an association of animal, the corals, vegetation, means the algae, it's a primitive form of vegetation, and mineral elements, that is the calcium carbonate. So they are animals, corals. You can see here it's shown how these coral polyps, so these are called polyps, are provided their food through these algae, zooxanthellae, and they produce their food using sun's energy from carbon dioxide and water. Then this is the coral bleaching. You can see healthy coral, stressed coral, the algae leaves and then it becomes bleached. Causes are mentioned here: change in ocean temperature, increasing if there is runoff and pollution of the water body, overexposure to sunlight, or extremely low tides. So these result in coral bleaching. The next news item is gender sensitive TB measures needed. So this is World Health Organization report also pointing out that TB affects around 3 million population of women every year and is a leading cause of death amongst adult women globally. So in India too, it has been seen that it's this REACH organization, Resource Group for Education and Advocacy for Communal Health, along with USAID, they have said there is a need to integrate gender in India's TB program. So there is this urgency felt because there's a stigma involved that it is poverty and this it's communicable disease, and that is why women especially feel the brunt of this, and when they suffer from TB, they are many times abandoned by their families. So there is a need for bringing in gender in India's tuberculosis program and looking into it. So social aspect is also important apart from the health aspect. So that is being highlighted here. So the myths and the truth regarding TB, you can see TB is a life-threatening disease. It says no, it can be cured with medication. You can become infected by TB by touching someone who has it or been with someone who has it for few minutes. That is not the case. Only prolonged close contact with a coughing infectious patient can cause TB transmission. If someone has TB, they are infectious. So it says that TB patients, it's a myth. The truth is that TB patients who have taken their treatment for 2 weeks and are still taking treatment usually are not infectious. So that abandonment is actually not required in many cases. It says only the poor and malnourished get TB, a myth. It says that anyone can get TB, rich or poor. So that is there. Only once you have TB, you are doomed and cannot get treated. That is not the case. TB treatment is freely available at government clinics, and correct treatment can cure many cases. The last news item is NASA to explore Jupiter's icy moon. So this is a mission of NASA, Euroclipper, which will be launched in 2020. So this will probe the habitability of Jupiter's icy moon. So this is the Jupiter's moon, Europa. So this will conduct flybys. Means around 40 to 45 flybys are planned, which is past close to the Europa. So Europa has been a target priority for exploration because it holds salty liquid water ocean beneath its icy crust. So its outermost layers of icy crust as such, but then under it there is this liquid water ocean, salty liquid water ocean. So that is why the objective here of Europa Clipper of NASA is also to determine if Europa is habitable. Means it is possessing all 3 ingredients which are necessary for life. Means one is liquid water, chemical ingredients, and energy sources. So that is being probed. That is the objective of Europa Clipper. But then the radiation environment of Europa is challenging. So that's why these flybys are also being there, which will be for very short time. So we'll see how this exploration also takes place. So you can see the crust here, icy crust, and inside here you have the ocean. So this is rich in chemicals and salts. So this is one major moon of Jupiter, Europa. So this was discovered by Italian astronomer Galileo. So Jupiter has 64 moons. So one of them is Europa. Other famous ones, prominent ones are mentioned here. Io, Ganymede, Callisto. So these are the news items. Thank you.